QuoteWerks provides the ability to manage purchasing and sourcing from vendors and distributors. Features that support this range from simple vendor information management to the ability to create purchase orders and include vendors on VendorRFQ requests. Today we will be discussing vendor maintenance in QuoteWerks. To manage your vendors, navigate to Utilities, then Vendor Maintenance. This opens the Vendors window. This lists all of your currently created vendors, gives you the ability to create, edit, or delete vendors, and import vendors using the Vendor Import Wizard. Double-clicking a vendor will open the Edit Vendor window, which is where you can input or change vendor information. Here you will input the vendor's name, contact information, account number, free shipping minimum, minimum order amounts and fees, terms, accounting ID, PO prefix/postfix, and notes. This window also allows you to manage vendor contacts and returns information using the tabs towards the bottom of the window. To create a new contact for the selected vendor, hit the gold New button on the Contacts tab. This opens the new vendor contact window. Here you can input your vendor's contact information, assign them as a primary contact if you'd like, add notes, and set whether or not you would like them to be included as the to or CC on PO and VendorRFQ emails. It's a good time to mention that the primary contact's email is used by default when sending out VendorRFQ requests. Hitting OK saves this contact and associates them with the vendor. Additionally, you can send a one-off email to a vendor contact by selecting their name and clicking on the envelope icon. This will open a blank email addressed to their saved email address. And then, on the Returns tab, you can input the returns contact along with their contact and shipping information. If you have multiple vendor records you need to create, you may opt to use the Vendor Import Wizard. You can get to this by clicking the Import button on the Vendors window. We get a warning about having VendorRFQ implemented and a note not to delete all existing vendors. Doing so could have a negative effect on VendorRFQ. We will click OK. You are prompted to begin the Vendor Import Wizard by selecting a file to import or selecting a saved template from a previous import. For the purposes of this demonstration, we will create a new import. Before we move forward, we need to ensure that our import file has the columns and information we need. To do this, we can use the Data Manager. We will navigate to Utilities, then Data Manager. This opens the Data Manager window. Here we will select the Export tab and select Vendors as our dataset. Next, we will choose to create an empty dataset file with basic columns, but you have other options there if you would like to take a different approach. Hitting Export will create a CSV file that can be used as a vendor import template. After you input your vendor information into the template, you will want to save it before moving on to the next step. As you can see, I've created an import file that I have populated with information for a few vendors. Now we can navigate back to the Vendors window and click on Import again. We can click on the ellipses button under Select the text file to import and select the file we just created using the Data Manager template. The system will analyze the file for its format and contents of the import. Generally, you will not need to change this information, but if you see something that's incorrect, you may need to change it before proceeding. To move to the next step in the import process, click Next. This step is Basic Mapping. To map the fields, use the drop-down menu next to the field name from QuoteWerks and select the corresponding column header from our import file. If needed, click on View Contents of Text File to preview the file and to assist with the mapping. When done with the mapping, click Next to progress to the next step in the process. The next window is the Advanced Mapping window. Here you will map additional fields from the import file, including the returns information and the primary contacts information. Once your advanced mapping is complete, click Next. This opens the Options window. Here you can choose to delete all existing vendors and import the new ones, or append the vendors to the existing list. For our purposes, we will append our vendors to the existing list. We will also start our import at row 2 since row 1 is our column headers. And last but not least, if you're planning on importing additional vendors in the future using a file with the same column arrangement, you can save the import as a template by giving it a name and clicking the Save button. This can save you time and effort mapping fields during future imports. Once you've made your selection, click Start Import. The import processes, and when complete, you will be given the option to view the import log. This log contains detailed information about the import and mappings. When we return to the Vendors window, we will see that it now includes the vendors from our import file. If we click into one of the newly created vendor records, we can see that all of the vendor fields, the contact fields, and the return fields have been imported. We can now leverage this vendor information to create purchase orders either manually via the Deliver window or using a step-by-step process through the Purchasing tab. To create a manual PO, you will typically start with a quote that has been converted to an order. While in that order, click on the Deliver icon. This opens the Print, Share, Publish, Deliver document window. Click on Purchase Order under Filter By, select the purchase order standard layout, and then click on Preview. This opens the Select Vendors to Create POs for window. This window lists all of the vendors whose products are included on the order. If there is more than one vendor on the order, you can create a PO for each vendor. The system will cycle through each one and create a PO for each vendor, including only the products that are being purchased from them. In our example, we have one vendor, TD Synnex, so we will make sure that they are selected and click OK. A preview of the purchase order will open, and you can see that the vendor contact information has been populated in the vendor section of the document. We can also create a purchase order from the purchasing window. To do so, click on the purchasing icon on the standard toolbar. Select your vendor, then the items you would like to create a purchase order for, and click Create PO. Note that because we are creating a PO for a vendor that has online ordering available, I have to confirm that I want to proceed with the manual PO creation process. I will click Yes to proceed. The Create Purchase Order window will open where you can assign a PO number, input information about the order, input your ship to, and populate PO notes. Clicking OK creates the PO, and if we click on Email PO, the Send Email window will open, populated with our purchase order. Note that the vendor section is populated with the vendor we selected while creating the PO, and the email has the primary vendor contact in the To field. With our PO created either manually or via the purchasing window, we can now follow our normal receiving and order fulfillment processes. As you have seen, QuoteWerks provides a platform to manage your vendor information and use it to create purchase orders. Creating vendors requires minimal effort, and once their information is in the system, all you have to do is follow the PO creation and delivery process. If you have questions or would like to learn more, feel free to review our help files or contact the team at 407-248-1481.